a huge crash. I came over, they were none too pleased. You can see just the mess here. So they're gonna be super mad at me. All right, so this hive has got me intrigued as to what's going on, if they're so full. Or what we got going on, so. Oh, I certainly don't want them burn. I feel like they must just be overflowing here. I sent some smoke up in the top here, and I mean, bees are falling out. Holy Anna. There we go. Ooh, this looks like a lot of honey. I do have foundation in here. It looks like at least this one here. So maybe they built up. They often build up the comb from. So this was drawn comb. I don't know if you can see what I'm looking at or not here. Yeah, I might. Just bring my. So this one was drawn comb, and this one is pretty clearly foundation. I might be wrong, but we'll pull it out and see. And so I think what they did is they probably drew this out towards this foundation. And so I'm guessing this is going to be really thick, and this might not even be drawn out at all, but that's my prediction as to what I'm seeing right now. I'm afraid I'm gonna scrape this cappings off this. I think it's all drawn up. It's just packed is what it is. Just packed full of honey. So that's awesome. So I'm guessing this whole super is full. Might be spinning some honey tonight. Oh yeah, all the way capped. Typically they say if they're capped on the outside, they usually work from the inside out. So this is likely a completely full super of honey. I'm gonna end up trying to clear out the bees. I don't have a fume board. I usually just end up brushing them off. Super full. That's awesome. Well, I mean, some forced patience, honestly. I was on vacation for a whole week and had to work and that kind of stuff, so I didn't get out here. I mean, that is that is heavy. The other problem I might be running into is it's stuck. They're stuck together, the bottoms of these frames and the tops of the frames. Some of them might be stuck together. That sucker's full. This one should be completely full too. It looks like it is. Get a good look down in there. You see how stuck they were together? You could see all the... Really. I get some weird light because I'm under these trees, so some good light there and then not so good, but that's probably why. That's probably why they were sitting outside. Because it's full. I mean, they're full. They don't have a lot else to do right now. That's super cool. It took a little while. It took a little bit longer. I was hoping to get some spring, quote unquote, spring honey, but because of the issues with the queens that I had and some other things, you know, mostly my fault, it didn't pan out, and that's totally fine. So it is time to treat. I am going to treat with mite away. The population obviously is super high. So if you haven't used these before, they come in packs of 2, this foil pack like this. And see if I can give you an actual shot of me too here. So if you haven't used Mite Away Quick Strips or Formic Pro, it's like the new updated version. I choose to go with Mite Away until something changes. I know Formic Pro is like the new formula or whatever, but this has worked for me, so I just keep using it. So if you haven't used it before, it comes in, so I've got a pack of like 40, but they come in two strips in a foil pack like this. And you'll see they're pretty gooey with the formic acid in there. It's kind of smells like vinegar. It does kind of sting the nostrils a little bit, but as far as I understand, you don't need a respirator. I've never used a respirator to deal with this stuff. I have heard that it will, if you decide to handle it with your bare hands, it will burn the skin and it will take a layer of skin off. So I just do it with gloves. I think you're supposed to use nitrile gloves, rubber gloves, that kind of thing. I've always just done it with my leather beekeeping gloves. And so there's 2 in here. I will use both of them. Big enough hive. I'm late to the game as far as treating too. So you see the reaction. So there's 2 there. I'm not supposed to have it piled up like that, but if you see the reaction of the bees, they don't like it. They certainly don't enjoy having this in their hive. I do try to minimize how much I touch it with my gloves. Because it is an acid, it is hard on my gloves. It makes my gloves all sticky and just kind of a mess. So that's 2 strips like that. You just separate them in the middle there and then put them in between. Kind of spread them out like this. You'll see that something disastrous happens to this hive later on. I don't think it's because I put these strips on top of that queen excluder, although I don't think that is best practice. I should have put these strips in between the brood box and the medium that I am using in this case as a second box. And that's it. I'm going to go put a new super on top of here. You can see the reaction. They don't like it. It's not fun for them to have it in their hive. There is a mortality rate to it for sure. It does kill a number of bees, but I take that over the whole hive collapsing because of the mite diseases that the varroa mites would bring to the hive. So I'm going to go get another super and bring it back here. So there you go. I'll just add this super right on top of here. Thought about it this year and about getting a fume board and doing that, and I would have loved to do it. And I know that you can do them, and they pretty quickly. They work pretty quickly. You know, minutes I think, but I don't have that. So I'm going to end up shaking all these bees off of those frames back into their hive. So it's going to be a huge pain, but it is what it is. It's part of what I have going. God, that's beautiful though, huh? I mean, just a little bit uncapped on the bottom there, but it really is fun to see. I mean, it's a lot of work. You get stung, you make mistakes, but it sure is fun. Jeez. A little bit uncapped, but I'm sure that that's going to be just fine. The other trick I've learned is to take a empty medium. So I just emptied it out, and then I can take the frames out of this one, shake them off, and put them in this medium over here. And there's still always going to be a few bees, and there's going to be bees who are going to find it. It just is part of the deal. But I can move them to this medium, because this medium will inevitably still have bees on the sides and covering the outside and whatever. So then I can shake off the box itself too. So trying to shake them and then put them right back in the same box is kind of futile. So this is one of these comb honey frames. I'm not sure that they're the best, but it did actually work out. They got a good flow, and there's a couple sections of comb that I could cut out and box up if I wanted to sell it, or yeah, I don't know. It just ends up being kind of a mess. Not that impressed with this, and it was a cheap thing. This is what I'm talking about. So you always have bees left over. If you try and set the frames aside and then come back, you could do that too. But if I just take a empty, I try not to shake too many on the ground, because then I end up stepping on them and then they end up stinging me, and that's not ideal. So and then this gives me a chance to clean this one out a little bit real quick. Just scrape the edges off. Like scrape these down just real quick. Just get this little bit of comb off the insides there, but these rails are what I'm really interested in. Just the frames get stuck on those when you're trying to move them around, and so then now I've got another empty. All right, so now I can shake off the second one and put them into this one. That is a solid frame of honey there. See how thick they drew that out. Now here's one of those, if you can see it in the light, this is one of those comb honey, I think. And that one worked out pretty good. So that you can get, can't remember if it's 4, I think you can get four chunks out of there. So that one actually worked quite well. I think the bees are trying to figure out what to do with that formic acid. So here you go with all that drawn out and capped honey. There's still a frame of foundation in there that's really not touched, because the frame next to it, on this side they just drew this comb all the way to bee space. On this side, same thing on this side, and they just put the honey and the work into the comb on that one, and didn't even worry about doing anything with that frame. Bees do what they want. They do it how they want. You can set them up. You know, I've learned pretty quickly you can set them up the way you want them to be. Ooh, and I just raked the heck out of, unfortunately, I just raked the heck out of that one. So that's gonna be a mess. Yeah, man, you can do what you want. You can set them up the way you think it should be. Try and get them to do what you want. They're still gonna do what they want. And so you just try and change your approach next time. There you go, another opportunity to clean this one out a little bit. Just a quick down and dirty. Scrape the bottom a little bit, scrape the inside a little bit, and call it good. There we go. So that one's done. See if I can get these bees to go into the hive a little bit. And then always like to give them an upper entrance, so stick in there to make sure that they do have a chance for an upper entrance. And we're done with that one. So we got two full supers out of that. So that's really cool. And now I will just move on here. At some point today, I may have to just add supers and walk away. I don't have an infinite amount of time. So if they're really going to town, which it looks like they are, so same thing. I'm pretty confident that this is pretty darn full up top here. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I don't have a queen excluder. I do have a queen excluder. So, look at this. That is all brood. So that's all brood. So I've got some sort of goofy situation here that I'll have to figure out. So I'm still gonna just swap them over here. I'm not sure. I did a shakeout on this hive. Okay, so this is all honey. So somehow I got drone brood. Looks like I got a little bit of brood on the bottom of this frame as well. And give you a shot in there. I mean, it looks like a typical completely capped super, but you can see brood at the bottom here. That's brood. So to figure out what the situation is there, if the queen is really up top here, it seems strange that the queen would be up here and yet this would be so packed with honey, I mean, and not have her fighting for more space to lay eggs. So yeah, and I've never heard of it before, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. Well, so these look good. This looks like worker. My question was, is it so full or so far away from the queen that there was a laying worker up here? But that looks all like worker. Worker capped larva. So, and this is all larva here. So is what it is. Somehow I screwed up. I did a shake. I shook all the whatever I had on top down below. I do have a queen excluder here. I guess something weird could happen, like this queen excluder could have a hole in it, but it's plastic. I think I would have noticed that. So somehow I tried to shake them all down, and still the queen got into the top, it appears, which is very interesting. It'd be interesting to see then what's down here and what's here. You know, if it's been 25 days since I did that shakeout and I don't have that number, could that all be honey now, and we just have brood up top? It'd be a very interesting situation. So all these, I guess I'm not showing you each one of these frames. The last frame I pulled out had brood on it. This one has just a little bit of brood at the bottom there. I mean, yeah, the last frame, I'll show it to you because it's pretty packed full here. So the last frame I pulled out is, I mean, that's like a good frame of brood, like a normal good frame of brood, where it's got the honey cap on top. A lot of drone brood, half drone brood on that side, half drone brood on that side too. So I mean, the queen could be right here anywhere. Wow, what an interesting situation. I mean, it's a mess, but it's an interesting situation to have to come across and deal with now. And a little bit of brood at the very bottom of that one. So again, I'll just take the opportunity to scrape this guy out a little bit. This is going to be all brood. It's freaking cool, but what a mess. What an interesting mess. All right, so you can clearly, I think you can clearly see the queen excluder here. This is all brood up to, I mean, this is honey on the outside, but I don't know, how do I navigate this? I'm gonna take this super off, which is not a honey super, it's a brood chamber. I'm gonna likely swap it out with this one. We'll see what's in here. This one might be all honey, because it should be backfilled. I guess the other mistake I made, I put this on top of, I mean, the queen could literally be in there. So, and I set a frame over there. So I'm gonna pull this guy off, thinking that that's just a brood chamber. So then we'll see what we got here. Kind of a reverse hive situation. I don't know if you would ever do this intentionally, but I mean, I'm expecting this to be mostly honey, and look at that, it is. So what originally was a brood chamber for me is a honey. You know, I've also heard people say that, you know, if your queen excluder isn't tight, the queen can sneak around it. I don't know if there's actual documentation of this stuff or if it's just conjecture. So you can see the darker comb because this was laid in. Well, there's also a bunch of pollen in there too, so queen cups, but obviously even if she wanted to lay in them, I don't think she would have had access to them. Pollen, and then capped honey on the outside here. Big old drones in there. Well, yeah. Okay, I'm kind of at a loss as to exactly how to deal with this. I mean, really, there's nothing really to do here except take this off, which is actually a super instead of a brood chamber like it was supposed to be. Plenty full. No, I mean, none of this is, half of this isn't even drawn out. What is honey, all nectar, pollen, that's fine. Well, we can get the queen back here and she'll still, I think, have some room to lay if I can get her down there. Means I'm going to put this in here because this has got all the drone brood. I'll pull the honey frames that don't have any brood on them, and I will add some frames in there for her to lay, continuing to lay. So there's 9 frames there, brood in the middle, lots of honey. Then on, double check. This is in fact all honey. No, it's not. So this is all brood. Okay. Well, kind of a weird setup, but yeah, that's brood. Good. Okay. So quite a weird setup. I'm actually going to put this back in there. Let the queen have a couple more frames. Go to the outside here and see if I can see if there's honey on the outside. I'll just pull the honey frames. Then it gives more room for laying because it's not actually a bad setup for the hive because the hive's going to have plenty of resources. Unlike last year when I depleted them, I think, too much. There's plenty of honey in here already. They should be doing great, but I'm going to pull some honey frames off of here so that there'll be more laying frames. Not necessarily honey bound, but and that's all larva anyway. Okay, so we'll put that one back in. Give her a couple more frames. Put this on top. Not that full because it's full of brood. So Goofy said. So I did the same thing to both of these hives where I shook all the bees down because I knew the queen was up in a super, and it worked for this one. And I got the queen down and everything's fine. And then I was able to pull 2 full supers off of this one. This one it didn't work, and I put the queen excluder in, and so I actually had a brood chamber and a medium that were below the queen excluder, but the queen was above, and so she actually was laying in the supers that were above. And so now I believe I should have the queen in here somewhere. So these are the 2 supers that were up above. I pulled some honey from them, gave some drawn comb. There's a bunch of brood in here, so population should be doing fine. This is not honey bound. It does have a bunch of nectar and a decent amount of honey, but also some open space and some pollen and that kind of stuff. So I think giving the queen this space and additional frames in both these 2 supers, additional drawn comb so she can continue to lay, I think they will be fine. And then I can try and throw a super on top. I still have to treat them. I almost forgot because I got sidetracked and all this other stuff. I got to find my pack of oof, these are gooey. I certainly don't want to just dump the formic acid. There's like liquid goo. I guess for you in the future, look at the goo. It was in a hot garage, maybe that did it a little bit, but there's goo there, so don't just tip this over because you'll dump all that and you'll just probably be killing bees and I don't know, making a mess. So definitely check that out before and I know I told you that I didn't test today. I did basically, I did identify that there were plenty of mites in this particular hive, which is very strong, building up lots of honey. Like a month and a half ago or so, pulled a bunch of drone comb off and there were a number of mites in there. So I am just going to treat based on that. All right, get a super up top there. Interesting to see how many bees are willing to bypass that. I should actually probably put the mite away down here. Would make the most sense. I'm not gonna get the bees to come up top here. So I'll just tip this up. Tell you what, when your gloves get affected by that formic acid in there, they become pretty darn slippery, at least for me. Double check that they're fairly well spaced out. Okay, so now I've got, I can't tell the difference. Can you hear the bees reacting? You can kind of see them starting to bubble up to that formic acid in there. We're well below the temperature rating. It's like, oh, Steve, what is the temperature? It's a good question, but temperature rating for mite away is 85 degrees. You got a 85 degrees for the first 3 days, and I'm well below that. I'm probably 80, honestly. So, good or bad, putting the strips in here actually is probably going to push these bees up into this super. I had the strips here, which is just going to force all the bees that are, all the bees in here probably down and out. Now it's going to push at least some of them up, and you can see they're already starting to come up here. So that makes more sense. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to get these bees up into this super for a couple of days. So then we can put our stick back, cover it up, call her good. Maybe it may have too big a stick in there, but with the brick on there, it should be okay. They'll seal all that back up anyway. And yeah, I got a little drone brood on the bottom there. I'll just scrape that off before we spin these out. Not a big concern for me. And I just shook a bunch of bees in the front of the hive here on the ground. I already had this all closed up. I probably should have shook them into the super to get them up there, but is what it is. I wouldn't shake bees onto the ground unless you have to, unless you know for sure that you're not going to walk there, which I know I'm not going to need to walk there. All right, on to my third hive here. Oof. They look pretty darn full too. This is kind of the most annoying hive because I've got this tree right here, but is what it is. This looks all capped as well, or mostly capped. We'll see. This one does not have a queen excluder, so we will see what we are dealing with here. And if I don't have a queen excluder, then I run into the possibility that there's brood up here. That is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful frame. Just beautiful honey. Don't see any brood. Just honey. Jesus, these frames are fantastic. Okay, now I got, there's nothing on this one. At the very bottom, you see just a little bit of brood, just that little bump. That is brood, drone comb, drone brood. And it looked like there was just a little on the bottom of this one too. Holy hell. There you go, just a little bit at the bottom. No queen excluder here, but 2 deeps. So just a little at the bottom, but man, look at how thick that frame is. 8. Yeah, so I've got 9. I've got 9 frames in here, and I went to that, I think, starting last year, because 10 frames in a box like this packed with honey is it's just too tight, first of all, and secondly, did I tell you that my gloves get slippery when I deal with that formic acid? And secondly, the frames are so much easier to scrape those cappings off because they're fatter. They built out fatter. Now this one on this side isn't that fat, but is what it is. But yeah, there's some drone brood on here because we didn't use a queen excluder here. Is what it is. I'm good with it. We'll just scrape that off before we spin it. But this is all completely capped, so I'm gonna take this, I'll pop this off, shake all that down, get one of my other supers that I have here. I'm running out. Good thing, good problem to have, but I am running out. I didn't bring enough. I don't have a ton more supers, actually. Just I don't possess that many more. Oh, God. Clear this off a little bit. Get the formic acid in the mite away quick strips. We'll get that out, lay that down here so that I can shake all these bees into the top. You're supposed to put it in between the 2 deeps, and I guess I can certainly do that too. You know, you're really trying to get a capped brood. That's what you're trying to target with this. So I can do that, or I will do that. I will get this loosened up. Again, that'll do a couple of things. Because we're going to continue with another super here, collect more honey, it makes sense to put it in between these two so it pushes those bees up into the new super that I'm going to put up top. Also, the packaging tells you to do it that way because you're targeting the mites that are in the cappings. Well, so because I didn't pull this super probably on time, they may have kind of a honey-bound situation going here. That one was extremely heavy, which means there is tons of honey in there. It doesn't mean that there's not plenty of brood in there too, but I mean the population's great. So you can just see drone brood there. That's the second outside frame. So there, look at like my hand slipped, I dropped the frame, and then you get bees that are pissed off at you. And rightly so. So like this one feels a lot lighter. So just from the feel it should, and it's not much brood. There's a little brood in the corner. A little bit of brood. Yeah, it's all brood on this side. So that makes sense because just from the feel, just from the weight of that frame, it just feels lighter compared to a honey frame. So now here again, like this is the first hive that's really gotten kind of active, gotten kind of mad in my face. All sorts of brood in here. So all different stages of brood on that side. All hard to see. Lots of young open larvae on that side. So now if these frames were perfectly drawn out, it wouldn't matter. You notice how I have to switch this around. But because of, I don't know, my inexperience, I guess, because of what I have to do, I've got a frame of foundation here. Well, they drew the comb from here out very far towards this one, so, and this one's all drawn out, so I can't have it that way. The comb would bump. So I do actually have to orient the frames the correct way in that case. Now I've got a bunch of comb sticking out here, which is why this is drawn out wonky, because I've got comb that's sticking way out on this side. This barely fits in there. It rubs, it did scrape the cappings off of some of that. So anyway, here we go. I gotta put mite away quick strips. I gotta treat this, check those bees down, and move on. I'm only on hive 3 of 6. And I'm gonna run out of supers, so it's not, timing probably doesn't matter that much. But here's a really good example of why I gotta be careful. I can't just dump this. The bees are just right there. I can't just dump all that liquid. You know, there's liquid just dripping off of these. I should really kind of wipe them off here. You know, we got to treat, or I choose to treat, I guess. Some people choose not to treat. I choose to treat. But I don't want to kill any more bees than I have to. This is extremely heavy. That's quite a lift for me. All right, now we're gonna get quite some bee action here, I'm sure. You can see them. You can see them bubbling. You can just see them bubbling up, trying to get away from that formic acid. But there's lots of bees. There's lots of space in there. The formic acid will be dissipated very quickly. Moved throughout the hive. It will do its job. It does its job very well. I don't have an extra queen excluder, so I just got to go with the setup that I already have. Yeah, they're just bubbling up, trying to get away from that. Understandably, I should have put this super on faster. See them. Angle, can you see them? Just again, they're just bubbling up. You can see I've got some. Maybe you can see, maybe not. They had some old frames from a dead out, and I let them dry out. I left them outside, and I shook them, and I just couldn't figure out the best way to get all those bees. All the dead bees were head first into the cell, so they didn't rot. I didn't have that issue, but I tapped each frame a number of times and got some of the bees to come out, but definitely not even most of them. So I'm hoping or expecting these bees to clean those out when they get to work on this. I expect them to clean those all out. Now I gotta shake this bees off of this super. Alright, so cool. Probably get these. So I've got these 3 hives now. I think I'm gonna be lucky, whatever, in that these were requeening and rebuilding and stuff, so these might not be as full. They might totally be full. I don't know. Oh, they certainly sealed down good. There's tons of honey in here. I mean, now this hive has had this issue with these ants too. I think it's this hive. I mean, they don't. It's not great. They don't bother anything. They just sit on the outside there. But yeah, this looks like it's capped, and it is. And there you go, totally capped. This does have a queen excluder. We know now. In my case, that doesn't mean anything because I've screwed that up before. Let's get you closer here. Yeah, so even this one, I forced them to requeen. I shook them out. I was mad because they were mad. Totally capped. Totally capped over. Just double, triple check. Yeah, I didn't smoke them, but there we go. Usually goes out, but the way I've been doing it, it does seem to come back. Capped, capped. Right in the middle, completely capped. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so that super can come too. Treat for mites. Get another super out. Oh. Okay, so I ran to my truck to relight the smoker because this hive right here, of these 3 over here, it's always been kind of a hot hive, was getting kind of mad at me, so I thought I'd relight it, and I heard a huge crash, and I looked over. I just set the smoker down there, and I looked, and I thought it was a camera, but it was really loud. And this hive, you can see that it tipped over, like it slid, I guess, and completely tipped over. I'm not exactly sure, I didn't witness it, but you can see that this is at quite a incline or decline, depending on how you want to look at it. So I came over, they were none too pleased. You can see just the mess here. So they're going to be super mad at me getting this squared away. But it's my best. It's my best. Yeah, I mean, and I got the treatment in between there, so the treatment, I don't know, maybe the treatment made it slippery and the top box started sliding or something. I guess I'm not sure, but well, you'll get to witness some action here, I'm sure. So I did relight the smoker. They are not happy. I did not take these two apart, I don't think, so I may have to take these. What a mess. No, I'll do my best. I don't think these two boxes are separated. So I'm gonna have to separate them first. Well, what I should do, maybe I'll get this get this out of the way. Maybe I'll tip it up first. Yeah, I mean, I'll just keep doing the best I can with the smoke. I don't think there's any way I can flip this back up. On my own, but I guess I should try first, see how heavy it really is. Get it tipped up. Let's see, I got the clean excluder on top. I can hold the frames in because it's upside down. You can see that, right? Everything's totally upside down. These boxes are going to separate on me now, of course. Get this one righted so that all those frames are. Fuck. I guess I'll dip it this way. Okay, so that one's up. Not sure how heavy this is gonna be, but it doesn't feel like it's that heavy. It's not that heavy. Okay. Alright, you can see that this super is mostly intact. Unfortunately, those frames loose are just, as they slide back in all together, are just gonna crush bees. But yeah, I can just feel it. It's like tippy. I'm surprised that that hasn't happened when I'm gone. All right, well, luckily the top is on this set too, holding the frames in, so really, I got pretty lucky. All right, now maybe I just need to really make sure I got something under there that I'll try and stick here. Don't have anything else with me that I think would help. Tip that back. I'm also lucky that this actually happened. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Yeah, it must be that. That formic is really slippery up top there, and it just wants to slide this whole darn thing. So we'll take this off. Well, all in all, that wasn't terrible. Could have certainly been worse. Could have been better, but God, it could have been. That could have happened 20 minutes after I left. Okay, well, that was fun. Those bees, after they shake off what just happened to them, hopefully, back up in there. It is a tilt that's a problem. There we go, and just let them do their thing. Move over to the next one here. I don't really have much for supplies as far as, so I might be able to swap out some frames for these two if they're full. But next best thing I could do is try and get, it's Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, these are all freaking full, of course. Which is awesome, except I don't have anything I can give them. I got ants in here too. Little fuckers. Capped. Brood, honey brood. Sweet. All right, so there's actually nothing I can do for this guy. I can just inspect him real quick and see and treat. Why do I try that every time? If I haven't been here in 2 weeks, that's gonna be sealed down pretty darn tight. Oh. There it goes. Just gooey stuck. Yes. Good population. Wall to wall. Tons of honey in here. Good population. I don't know that there's much else for me to do. They absolutely could use a super. I just don't have one. I don't have enough frames to put anything together, so just give them their honey back. Very full population. I'm just gonna treat these guys on top. I don't have a super that I'm wanting them to be pushed up into necessarily, or to not be driven away from. And I'm not gonna be back out here in 3 days. Certainly aren't skimping on the product here. I mean, it's super gooey, but the problem is that if you're not careful, that paper is very thin. I know it's a wicking agent, but it does tear, and then you just got this goo. And why am I doing this? I should put it in. There's no reason for me not to put it in between the two. I should put it in between. There's no reason not to. It's dumb not to. It's laziness is what it is. take another couple minutes, even though this stuff's all probably glued together and heavy as hell. Here, now watch, I don't need smoke to drive these guys down. Just put your former pads on there. That'll drive the bees down. They don't want anything to do with this. Drive the bees down, away from the burr comb. I can scrape the burr comb off. There we go. Got that cleaned up. Cleaned up and off. That's the right way to do it. I was being lazy. That is the correct way to treat. Put it in between. Then the vapors can go both directions instead of being up here, and if they blow most of them out the top vent, then you're just not doing any good. All right, really good day. That's it, folks. Not bad. 6 hives that I had a laying worker. I had at least 2 hives, I think 3 hives that I squashed the queen this spring. Made them re-queen because I thought they were too aggressive. July 16th, I'm pulling 6 supers that are jammed packed with honey. That is awesome. Thanks for watching. Steve Loomis, father-daughter honey.